Good morning, good afternoon, whatever part of the world you're joining us today. Thank you for joining us today. We start today the set of events devoted to devastating war in Ukraine 1 year since its beginning. An invasion of Ukraine by Russia is no war, symmetrical war. It's extremely asymmetric. While Ukrainian soldiers fighting with Russian invasions, Russian soldiers are targeting civilians. The amount of IDPs, amount of refugees amounting over millions and millions of people, and destruction of infrastructure and civil engineering is also extremely enormous. It's very hard to speak about it today for me myself as a native Ukrainian, but I'm really glad that our community come together to put this set wonderful events. And I'm very pleased to first give introductory words to our Dean, Alpasam Mazandem, who was extremely supportive for all this time, for all our efforts, and he himself deeply involved in our efforts to help Ukraine.
Thank you, Karina, and colleagues, friends. Let me start by welcoming you all to our one-day event after 1 year, Ukraine war analysis and prospects. 1 year ago today, the Russian invasion of Ukraine started. It's been 12 months of killing, destruction, war crimes, devastation, and displacement. It has been 12 months of human suffering. Therefore, it's important to remember all those Ukrainians who lost their lives in the defense of their country. My sincerest thoughts are with the people of Ukraine in these incredibly difficult times that they've been enduring for the last 12 months. Also, in the last 12 months, we've faced another stark reality. Once again, the international security system isn't working. It's also clear that the international peace system isn't working. Yet, there is no urgent work to replace either. We are in the 1930s moment, and no one is looking ahead. The UN P5 model doesn't work when a P5 member is an aggressor. The UN has been sidelined by all P5 members for many years. It isn't that the UN isn't fit for purpose. It is that the P5 members have deliberately sabotaged the UN. Also, it's odd to see so many academics and politicos still talk in terms of victory and defeat. Far too many lives have been lost for anyone to talk of victory. There's a good deal of armchair generalship going on while others die. Meanwhile, the exception to the lack of victors are the profit-gorging energy firms and arms manufacturers, a clear case of war profiteering. And unfortunately, political elites seem comfortable with this. It's also important to note that the war in Ukraine has presented a real challenge to those who favor negotiated outcomes. The dilemma is what happens if there are bad actors like Putin who have no interest in negotiation. However, even if the political space is constrained for negotiations at the moment, we shouldn't write off what conflict resolution could achieve in the future. And I guess one particular alternative to this dilemma is that it would be good to try sanctions, but this time seriously. The reason I'm pointing this out is that the White House has just announced its readiness to apply much more comprehensive sanctions against Russia, which begs the question of why they haven't done them until now. If that had been possible to apply wider, broader sanctions, why they haven't done so by now. Moreover, if there is no negotiated settlement, what prospects will be waiting for Ukraine? Is Ukraine ready to become the center stage for a protracted proxy war? For how long will Ukraine enjoy the support of its global allies? Furthermore, once the war comes to an end, who will do what in the reconstruction process? What are the prospects of peace will look like in Ukraine, in Europe, and globally? So as you see, there are so many questions that we need to grapple with if we want to have a nuanced understanding of what's been happening in Ukraine. For that, my colleagues have prepared an excellent event and an excellent program. We will have world experts in peace and conflict studies, as well as a Nobel Peace Prize laureate to help us navigate through these multi-layered complexities. Therefore, I'd like to thank all of our presenters in advance for being part of this event. I'd also like to thank all organizers, particularly Dr. Karina Korostelina, for leading our Ukraine-related research programs at the Carter School and leading the organization of this event. With that, it's now my pleasure to hand over to Dr. Korostelina, and I wish you all a productive and thought-provoking event. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I will start with a quick introduction of our esteemed speaker today. We're really happy to have today with us the Nobel Peace Prize winners for this particular year. And representing the Organization for Civil Liberties is Romantsova Oleksandra. She is native of the city of Mykolaiv, who is now almost reduced to non-existence with aggression of Ukraine. She graduated from University of Economics and Law in Kiev, obtaining master's degree in international economics. And after 7 years working in a corporate world for financial responsibility, she became more involved in politics and human rights with events in Euromaidan in November 30, 2013. She became a part of public initiative Euromaidan SOS, and then start creating her professional career as a human rights defender at the Center for Civic Liberties. Since March 2014, Oleksandra was working for multiple projects. And as I'm myself from Crimea, I'm really glad to see that her first project was monitoring and documenting human rights violation, political persecution in Crimea, taken, occupied by Russia. And then she coordinated projects of observation of human rights violation in Eastern Ukraine, and continue research on occupied Crimea. And in 2015, Oleksandra was also responsible for international advocacy of the results of their activities. Since February 24, 22, beginning of the war, she coordinates also the direction of documentation of war crimes. All these activities, all her work in different regions and working with the International Criminal Court, we're really happy that she is here today and speak to us about her very brave and very profound work to document this and to make it public. It's very important. Thank you, Oleksandra. I'm very happy to have you here. The floor is yours.
Yeah, colleagues. Thank you. Thank you. I will describe a little how we work, and I have four questions now in the chat, and I will try to give you what's your curiosity will asking me. So I'm really glad exactly speak with with just the people who think about what happened in Ukraine and trying to understand what kind of experience Ukraine now can give the whole world about war crimes. So yeah, I'm working with documented war crimes last 9 years. So we started in 2014, and our first idea that was first of all Crimea, when Euromaidan like a hotline started accept more question about Crimea and Donbass than in center of whereas Euromaidan happened in Kiev. So we understood that something happened there, and going there like a field mission that after summer 2014, after so-called referendum, but there wasn't referendum, there wasn't even, you know, normal questionnaire, any representative like this. So, so after this, they block us, they don't give the possibility Ukrainian human rights defenders go into the territory of Ukraine. So we collect information there using the help of our partners from Belarus, from Russia, and from other countries, which exactly for Russian authority, they was not like they was not like a spy or something like this, but exactly such initiative like Crimea Field Mission was first banned like foreign agency and bandit organization. You know that such legislation exists in Russia Federation. So any person who have other opinion and how they told fluent by foreign like position or foreign politician opinion or something, foreign thoughts, they think that it needs to be banned. But after this, we're going to Donbass, and I was in Donetsk last time, 2 days before so-called referendum there. And after this, all our team was put in the shooting list and so-called checkpoints from this paramilitary group, which called like people republics. They call themselves Lugansk and Donetsk People Republic. And what all they doing, they exactly created this model which now Russia Federation with their forces spread to the whole occupied territory of Ukraine. So what I mean, all the 8 years, we have more than 10,000 cases of war crimes in Donbass and Crimea, and political prosecuting, like for example, arresting Crimea Tatarians, community representatives, mostly men, or people who, because free journalists is not existing in Crimea, so people just started make, you know, translation, not it's called translation, streaming in somewhere in internet, how, for example, Russian forces searching Crimean Tatarians villages, or how they do so-called courts, because it's not exactly courts, so-called courts against the people who just like stay with placards, my population is not a terrorist. So all of this idea we collect from 2014. It's the same situation with Donbass, but that was more cruel war crime there. That was kidnapping. That was more than 87. We find we create some map like 87 illegal place of detaining, and so more than 5,000 people going through this basement. Sometimes basement, even one of university, one of the biggest Lugansk university, named by Dal. It's a great scientist here in Ukraine. He was exactly using like a place of legally detaining more than 600 person going there, and was keeping, even one of them was keeping more than 8 months. So it was of example, mostly these people was torturing, and that was a gray zone without any rules, without any law, and just the people with the gangs. Some of them was local, but mostly they were managed by Russian special services. They was a free living there, but all other people exactly can feel themselves like a free there. So this so-called people republics, that was great actors of violence to human rights and exactly international humanitarian law, because they told that they like a state, so they need to be responsible to care about security and human rights there. Next one that was really important to understand, that whole of this information we have directly from some of people who exactly was prosecuted by them or their relatives. So we have a possibility to catch the information there. But now it's little other situation. 24 February, they trying to surrender exactly Kiev, and we have north, east, and south part of Ukraine, which was occupied. And every time when Russian forces was kicked out from there, we have a possibility. In Bucha, we was after 3 days after releasing, we take a permission from militaries because they need to give us permission that it's not mining there, so we can work, and we go in there. What does that mean going? That means like a group of people like me. I have experienced more than 8 years working with documented war crimes, and colleagues, which exactly I teach a lot of people, even prosecutors and even journalists. They ask us about trainings because they want to make a like video photo material, which after this can be joined to some court cases and all of this investigative cases. So we teach the people, like a group of people into the field mission to speak with concrete victims, a witness who exactly was tortured, or who exactly was kidnapped, or which relatives was killed, or something like this. In Ukraine, when you come to the villages which was occupied, there are not two problems. Speak with people. I understood that if you never be in Ukraine, it's quite hard to understand, but Ukrainians really love to speak. I mean, freedom of speech, it's exactly first freedom for Ukrainians. And if you're trying to make them shut up, that will be the biggest problem for you. So it's like one of part of national identity. But exists only one kind of war crimes, which exactly people don't speak about, that's sexual crimes. And we have a lot of evidence that it happened, like thousands of cases, but people not prepared directly speak about that with prosecutors and, for example, police, but they easily speak with doctors. And that's why we have some statistic, and we have national line where the people can call and speak about that. But mostly of them started from problems with the children's. If they was a victim or witness of such sexual crime. But after this, psychologists start to speak with them, and like step by step, they started to speak about their trauma, not only children's. But same situation was with people who left Ukraine and now refugees outside the Ukraine. They mostly they have some powers, and some security feelings, so speak about such sexualized crimes. But if both women and men, it's people with really different ages, started from children and ended, but people older than 80s. So it's just it's just a short evolution how it's happened. We're working with documented war crimes. Sure, it's a question. A language connection. I mean that to speak with such victims, you need be in the same wave, and better if you speak Russian and Ukrainian. Depends how the person prefer. But a lot of people afraid speak with people who speak Russian because it's one of exactly trauma. Before that, that was not a problem, like person can speak Russian, but now a lot of people more secure, like feel themselves if the person who comes to them to speak with them Ukrainian, because they understood that any Russian soldiers or any supporters of Russia world can speak Ukrainian. So Ukrainian start to be like, it started to be one of security code between people here in Ukraine who want to be exactly, who want to resist and not be catched by Russian war. So what we are doing, we speak with people, made a recording with their testimony. They give us permission at different level using this information. And after this, next what we working with some objects like their houses or places, or for example, if you'll speak about not direct attacks, but if you will speak about documenting of destroy the school, of using the school like a military object or something like this. So we go into the place, make the photo, video. It's part of security instructions. Don't touch nothing because it can burn you, it can chemical attack you, it can be just sharp you or something this way. But and last one, you exactly will broke the place of crime. That's why you can make a video, and you have rules like make video and photo and recording. But please don't change something a lot of people bring us something like, oh, this part of bomb which exactly destroyed my house, and at least we say, okay, can you show exactly where is it lying, how that was in the wall or something, because we never touch it. So like a result, what we have now more than 33,000 cases, potential war crimes, crimes against humanity, and crimes of genocide. Why potential? Because at the end, only court can give this like characteristic and classification that it's exactly international war crimes. For example, it's international genocide crimes. But really important fourth kind of international crimes, which call crimes of aggression. Why so? Because international crimes covered by jurisdiction of International Criminal Court. International Criminal Court working in Hague, working like a constant court about international crimes, working based of Rome Statute. And Rome Statute exactly describe all the four kinds of international crimes, but International Criminal Court have only three of them jurisdiction, because members of International Criminal Court don't give the jurisdiction working with crime of aggression. That's why exactly. What does this mean, crime of aggression? This means when guys who manage such population like 140 million people, like Russian population, these guys represent them and call their presidents Putin, or their Minister of Foreign Affairs, or their head of their government, and they make a decision, start the war, start of aggression. So they decided to destroy exactly a country, to kill their president, to destroy their sovereignty or something. So this crime of aggression last time was punished in Nuremberg and Tokyo, two tribunals after Second World War. After this, nobody never punished people because they have a power and make a decision to start with the war. That's why exactly Ukraine wanna create international tribunal against crime of aggression, first of all, because it's not covering any international mechanism. Even UN exactly can create it, but don't have it now anyway. So we have International Court of Justice, UN, which exactly Ukraine appealed for three cases: case of genocide, case of whole form of discrimination of women, and case of discrimination of minorities, because Russian exactly hold the 8 years discriminates different kinds of minorities, ethnic minorities, first of all. But it's a court between two members of UN, so two countries, and this court exactly don't do that like fast from one side, from other can make a decision about something which not covered by special document, like for example, Convention about Genocide. So if two member country of UN signed and ratified some convention, this court can have such hearing. So that's why Ukraine appealed to these three conventions, because these three conventions exactly signed both Ukraine and Russia. International Criminal Court working now in Ukraine. We support them, we give them information, but they will cover maybe 20 cases. Like I told, now we have only in our database 33,000 cases. So what we need to do with all others, we exactly need to investigate and put them in the court here in Ukraine, and we see it like hybrid mechanism, which exactly exists before in history. Exists different hybrid mechanism. Vietnam, mechanism, in Africa, different countries, Arabian countries, but each of these mechanisms not prepared to work with such huge numbers of documented war crimes. But we can do that like a new model. That's why we now search and look in all of this previous model and trying to create ourselves. We see it like both participation, national and international representative of judges, the prosecutor, investigator, lawyers. Lawyers need to represent the people who will be accused, sure. So it's our idea, but first of all, we need to create this crime tribunal against crime of aggression, sure, because it's international level. Who can do that? It can be done by a Council of Security, but we know that China and Russia never will vote for that. So next step, it's possible to do that through the General Assembly of UN. So General Assembly of UN, that means that we need to collect two parts of so it's like 2/3 of whole the General Assembly voice. It's quite difficult because Ukraine traditionally don't have such a lot of connections like in Africa or Latin America or Asia countries. So Ukraine now really work for possibility to do that. Okay, so it looks like this. I trying to implement exactly answer for some of your questions because you proposed task how we can push UN exactly creates a special tribunal against crime of aggression. Like we can sure propose like create one more special tribunal crimes of against crime of war, but crime of war exactly covering by International Criminal Court. So it's one of the way. It's one of the way how they can be punished. But International Criminal Court will try take such case which exactly can show like highest level of making decisions. So it can be generals, president. I hope that they find the evidences that exactly Putin gives such order, because Putin can give the order, let's start the war, win it. And only like generals decided after this, give the order to commanders that, okay, you can kill anyone, any other way, how you will choose, but just to win me this war. So these generals exactly will be responsible for war crimes, because not all what happened during the wars were crimes, only broken the rules of war, which exactly describing international humanitarian and international criminal law. So I will try to check, do I cover all the questions, but we'll try to find this. What roles of Russia Spetsnaz you didn't have in this war? Russia Spetsnaz, okay. Good question, but they try and, first of all, it's near the April 2022, we have even Belarusian policemen and Belarusian entire war, like army here in Chernihiv and Kiev region. So we in the north part. So if you look at the map, the Ukrainian half in the north, Belarusian in the east north, Russian Federation. So when we speak about 80 forces, we need to understand that it's not only Russian responsibility, but regime Lukashenko same take a fully part in this. They give their territory to shell us by rockets. They, some of people, civilians who was kidnapped in the north part of not exactly north part of Ukraine when this territory was occupied, were occupied. So all of these people was bring through the territory of Belarus to the Russian jails, and they was tortured in the territory of Belarus. So when we speak about Spetsnaz, role of Spetsnaz, like special forces, we have this really specific like private army, which Wagner called, and they have a they do war crimes, hold the African countries in Syria, and after this coming here. And these Wagners mostly created from people who was jailed, who exactly was prisoners in Russian Federation, and so they propose them possibility to be rehabilitated if they will be alive after exactly fighting here. So same, now in Bakhmut and Solidar, we see a lot of like special forces from Russia. There's like elite like troops from Russia army, but mostly they fighting by so-called mobilized people. So it's like ordinary people who sometimes even don't have any like training about how they fight. So they just drop them like numerous of bodies who exactly, we call that, I'm not sure that in English you have some some ideas. We call it like pushечное мясо, so it's like gun meat, because they sorry,
gun meat,
yeah, it's it. Yeah, so they send them like you know, biological mass, which they just drop in soldiers and try and give the main idea that Ukrainians like spend some bullets, spend some materials, time and forces to exactly trying to stop this bad preparate, bad motivate, exactly sometimes not educate people. So special forces now we see them in Bakhmut, and the soldiers from Ukraine side. It's not the soldiers, but you're understanding why we are so sure know what happened in the front line. Who is come now and fighting for front line? It's ordinary common people of Ukraine. So we have writers, journalists, singers, teachers from university. We have some teachers who still continue make a lecture from front lines through the Zoom by computer till they can do that, and if they have struggling to have a connection. So it's one of the way how it's working. So ordinary people, common people, just going to the front line, and all other ordinary people who stay in Ukraine or going outside Ukraine help them. So it's a huge logistic system. So whole the Ukrainian society now work like a huge NGO. And a lot of different nets. That's why information, you can cover any information in Ukraine, you can hide it, because a lot of people have a personal contact with a lot of outside. That's why if we have some problem, for example, like corruption, we have this scandal with the price for food for soldiers in Ministry of Defense, and like before they started new contracts for the next year. So journalists find this information, you can exactly hide. So because a lot of huge numbers of people have a private context everywhere. That's why army now, it's 70% it's ordinary common people. But all of them, for example, Ukrainian soldiers, Ukrainian army have one of the point of their training list, it's a course of international humanitarian law. I trying to ask, is it that they have Russian soldiers any something like this, but they don't have, and they don't have even before the war. I mean, they never have it in program just to explain what does it mean, war crimes or not. I'm not sure that even they will have it, that it will stop them to do that, but still for understanding, they even don't know about that. And most of them started know more about rules, how exactly you need providing prisoners of war conditions only when they started to be prisoners of war. We have 3 persons who twice going like a prisoners of war in the territory of Ukraine. So Ukraine exchanged them back to the Russian Federation. They go again to army, and again comes to like a prisoners of war, and again come to Ukraine. So we started thinking about that they do this special, So that's their private choice. Okay, I need to check our chat to look all other questions. Okay, let's see how we can get the UN asking, what does justice for Ukraine looks like? I told you about that. For Ukraine, it's first of all judging authority of Russian Federation who make this decision, who use all the power, hold the resource of Russian Federation, hold the taxes paying, hold the exactly people life that create exactly war and trying to get trying to occupy whole the territory of Ukraine and destroy the independence. So for us, first of all, justice, it's for ordinary people. When I speak with people in field mission, what they ask, what I need to do that Putin going to the jail. Because at the beginning they're trying to take that someone using death penalty for him, but I explained that International Criminal Court not using death penalty, so they told, okay, sitting in the jail for whole their life. So justice for ordinary people looks like Putin sitting in the jail. But if we will speak about we are like human rights defenders, it's sure. So first of all, it's prosecuting Putin, and around of him hold the system of authority in Russian Federation. I mean, Putin is when we speak Putin, we speak not about a concrete person. We speak about this Putin system, which exactly now controlled by Russian population. Because I believe that if we take out this Putin system outside, from Russian population, and give them maybe thousands of psychiatrical therapists or something like this, maybe after 2 generations, we will have normal neighbors, maybe, but not these 2 generations, they are lost. Because propaganda exactly destroy their minds about that. They really believe that they hold this thousands of Russian army trying to help Donbass. And how many people in Donbass are exactly killed now by Russian army, they will never ask anyone. So it's a huge problem how what we will do with zombie apocalypse near our borders. So it's after the war scene, because it's millions of people. And justice, it's first of all, Putin in the jail hold this Putin system. Yeah, that's now Ukraine is speaking about nearly 20 concrete person, Putin and around of him authorities. It's exactly give the name by each episode of crimes, because before that Ukraine don't have this experience. During the 70 years of Soviet Union, we have huge numbers of crimes, different crimes, sending to Gulag people, kidnapped, killed, our writers was exactly destroyed, like a culture, like a culture community. Huge numbers of different, Hungary, it's 32, 33, we call it Golodomor. It's deportation of whole ethnic group or somewhere the other place where the 25% of people just dying during the deportation. So, but we don't have any justice after that. After Soviet Union was destroyed, nobody exactly judged all of these crimes which happened during this time. That's why for Ukrainians so important exactly in this time have a justice, have this recognition that Putin, all of his system and what Russian soldiers is doing, it's war crimes. And last one, it's really important, denazification and de-imperialization Russia Federation, because we really afraid that after victory, it's after 5 years, Russia Federation try and repeat war again. So it's for Ukrainians, both, we're afraid from one side, that is Putin takes back their army and say, okay, any tribunal, we need total amnesty. After this, we will not fight with you again. So it's same for Ukrainian population, not acceptable, because we know they will do again. they will do that, because we fight with them left to 300 years. We know their character. We exactly feel about that. So I think it's look like this, and sure, it's totally sure it's releasing all of these civilians and prisoners of war. Civilians, it's near 2,500 people in the territory of Russia Federation, and prisoners of war, it's different calculation, because now it's one of the part of military and secret, but I feel that it's not less than 5,000 people. I mean militarians who is the prisoners of war. So can you read?
Thank you. Yeah, yes, I will. Sorry. Yeah, I saw that you were taken. I didn't want to intervene, but yes, sure, of course. The one question, which is next question, which I also want to combine with, I have my own question, so I would combine them. A question in the chat, has Russia used chemical and biological weapons yet? And I will combine with the question more, how, Daniel Rosbart, who is present here, and me, we wrote several books on civilian devastation specifically, and how civilians are targeted specifically. And it's not just a causality of war, it's not just secondary victims, how many times people present in the battles, but they specifically targeted. And my own analysis of what went in Ukraine, it's this targeting of civilians went through first specifically targeting them to intimidate government to give up in the beginning of the war, was now increasing also attraction, increasing the revenge, increasing stress with civilians being actually not compliant, right? So there is a increase. How do you see the dynamic of targeting civilians through the war? And do you see the this very terrifying perspective if Russia will be using like more weapons of mass destruction?
Yes, first of all, let's ask to the part of chemical and biological. Biological, we don't see any characteristic that they would use. I'm not sure that exactly Russian Federation can produce it. I really hope that exactly they kill all the scientists' possibility to do that. I mean, because they're not truly scientist work. So I think biological, it's not what they exactly can produce. And we not find any concrete characteristic the biological weapon they trying to produce. What can exactly they can do, like massive, it's nuclear station using like a place really dangerous, because now they're sitting in Zaporozhye nuclear station, and before that they comes to the territory of Chernobylskaya nuclear station, and they bring heavy guns and heavy military objects exactly in the basement of, for example, the Zaporozhye station. So I'm not sure that they can plan it, but I think they look at that one of the way how use a nuclear weapon, like tactic way nuclear weapon. If we will speak about chemical, we have phosphor bomb characteristics in some of the places for Kharkiv region, for in Kiev region, not so many, but have few of the places where we see that it's phosphor bomb was using. So it's not like chemical, not spread like just a chemical, but it's specific when bomb with a phosphor вещество, like things like inside the bomb, you see specific in the wall, specific destruction. That's why you exactly can find.
Yeah, it's specific chemicals incorporated in the bomb to target as much more people, especially with their skin. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's really dangerous, and it's destruction much more and really dangerous for people. So we see it, and it's same looks like they use it in Syria. So in this way, together with some of our human rights defenders partner from all the world, we see this practice which they bring from Chechnya, from Syria to the Ukraine war now, and. It's a question about targeting civilians. First of all, when they occupied any region, they trying to find journalists, local politicians, big businessmen, people who have affluent to some community. They kidnap them, they torture them, or they provide, like they propose to why they torture, what they exactly they want. They want a video where these people supported occupation. So they trying to use the influence for the local community. And next question, they trying to find previously mobilized people in during the last 8 years. We have 6 waves for mobilization, so they trying to find men and women who was a part of Ukraine army. And after this, sometimes we can exactly understand logic, what kind of group of civilians they used, because people speak about some. When we speak with people who was released after occupation, they speak about that at the beginning they comes and trying to speak with local population in first part of invasion before summer. They're trying to speak with local population. We will release you from some fascists. Just give us understanding where they are, and they trying to go to from house to house trying to find fascists. But what they exactly they think that's a nationalism, fascist sign. Yes, so some characteristic. If you have some historical book about Ukraine, if you have some, for example, you have some we have some national symbols like flag or something like this. They decided it's nationalistic. If you have any tattoo at the beginning, it's not only national symbolic, but they trying to through the filtration. When the people trying to do the filtration, any tattoo, it's for them. It's signs that it's nationalistic representatives. So, and after this, next week by week, they at the beginning they're trying to do that separation, like this peaceful population, and this it's like fascist nationalist. But after this, day by day, they find that more and more and more population, all of them is fascist. So they have it, and they the people we speak about, like victims and witness, exactly they showing that exactly. We have one case when one soldier going to the 5 houses in the street, he go in each houses, he knocking in the door, and who is open the door, he just shooting in the head. And person who speak with me about that was like owner of six houses. So 5 houses that's happened such with he shooting men, women, like two women, 3 men who opened the door. And the next houses need to be house of this man. So and this guy who is exactly shooting this Russian soldier, he is screaming that all of you are fascist here. So and they, because every day they understand. I don't know, as for me, they collapse their understanding that it's not any specific group of fascists. It exists just Ukrainians. Ukrainians are not Russians. That's why they think that all of us, we are fascists because we are not Russians.
So this is Alexandra, yeah, this is what you bring in, it's very important, I think, for understanding how this war asymmetric, not only in how it's conducted, but also it's complete asymmetric in the way how it's presented to people of Russia and Ukraine, right? Because people, the soldiers who come in, Russian soldiers come into Ukraine, they completely brainwashed that there are some Nazi in control, and there are a lot of Ukrainians sitting and waiting there with ice cream that Russians people will come and will joy, flowers and ice cream, and will welcome. And this is a very strong misunderstanding in many ways dynamics of war in Ukraine, because people in Ukraine, majority of people who actually suffering, it's Russian-speaking population. South of Ukraine, Western Ukraine, but doesn't mean it's Russian-speaking population of Ukraine with a very strong Ukrainian national identity. And this is very, and this is very important. There is so much misunderstanding. Thank you for addressing this issue.
We, all of us, we understood both Russian and English, or in English, same. I will be helped, not we need more indicate for English, but Russian and Ukraine, all of us understood totally. We have 10% of people who can express themselves in Ukraine, and nearly 15% of people, 15% of people who can express themselves in Russian. So that's why it's not a problem for us get information, any of these two languages, and mostly all other Slavic languages which close to Russian and Ukraine. That's why because we have this bilingual environment, and that's why we easily understood from the Slovak language or Czech language or Poland language. But Russians exactly can't understood any other language except Russians. That's why when they hear Ukrainian with other pronunciation, we have like more pronunciation, more West pronunciation, they think that it's Poland. And they truly believe that here it's fighting Poland soldiers. But for Ukrainian soldiers, both, if one of them will speak Russian and one of them will speak Ukrainian, we don't need to translate for each other. We understood each other. That's why, and that's why sometimes this so-called mythology about that NATO soldiers fighting here in Ukraine, Russians for that, like, we're recording this Polish language, and they like put it in the YouTube, and we understood it's just simple Ukrainian. All of us Ukrainians understood these guys. So not because he is speaking Poland, but because he is speaking exactly Ukrainian. But you are from Russia. You don't know any other language except Russian. That's your problems, exactly. So let's go into the next questions.
Yes. Okay. So the next question is come from Tatsusha Rai about can you would outline your own vision of how to remove and replace the Putin system, and what Ukrainians and the rest of the world can do concretely toward this vision?
It's really good questions. You know, we have our partners like Memorial. It's a huge international net which exactly working with human rights defending, and they're trying to prosecute crimes which Stalin regime doing. So that's why they collect information, and they have a conference how we can support exactly resist Russian civilians society. But as for me, if we will take out all of this Putin system, it's first of all responsibility of Russian population organize their own lives. I mean, for us, really important to have a security system. So denazification and de-imperialization of Russia Federation, it's one of the totally like first points of this program. But next one, what kind they will have republic, president or parliament? Do they need exactly other president? Do they exactly will be one country or normal federation? They have like a formal federation, but exactly they are not federations. They unitary country, and these federal objects don't have any rights to make any decision for themselves. So, but it's first of all their responsibility. That's a big problem, that Russian population don't feel their responsibility for their state. They not believe in their power, manage their lives. That's big two difference between Ukrainian and Russians. Ukrainians are the people who like absolutely choose to manage our life by themselves. We are not perfect manager, but exactly we will be only one manager for our lives. So that's why. So as for me, after justice, after international community prosecute all of these perpetrators and prosecute all the people who make a decision started the war, it started to be easily speak with the Russian population. Why so? Because every time when we're trying to like compare regime by Nazi in Third Reich and Communistic Party in Soviet Union, you always come to the point when people say, yeah, but Nuremberg was about Nazi, not was about communist, and communists never be judging like this or something about their crimes or something, and nobody called them like criminals. And they say, yes, it's true. And that's a problem, because something not judging, something not prosecute, it's all in growing. So because we are not prosecute what they're doing in Syria, Mali, Georgia, Chechnya, Moldova, Georgia, that's why we have Ukraine. We understood that that's why Ukrainians want to change it.
Thank you very much. And I have a few minutes left. I will select one question which is more important for us as a university. And I will ask Mara, thank you for sharing your expertise and experience. I have a sense of how enormous the task is, but also how much been time to establish accountability and work against impunity. This work must take its own toll on you and your colleagues. Can you share what training and support help you keep going and avoid burning out?
Okay, so training support, because I have my post-traumatic syndrome in 2014, so all my team have a regular supporting by psychological like activities. It's same like group work and private consultation, because I feel that it's needing. I'm working with war crimes like all the 9 years. I see so many bodies, which I think pathologoanatoms never see, so something like so. So that's why it's what exactly help us with that. And for us, we're not trying to investigate something. We're not to make conclusions because it's need to doing like by police and by prosecutor office. Because if we will do that, we can exactly bring it to the courts, because it's need to be through the official investigation in national level and international level. So, so main training for us, it's understanding, now it's understanding how to build new courts, you know, how to build new tribunals. I mean, it will be more interesting for us. Maybe trying to create model of hybrid national, international hybrid mechanism in the national level, because as I told, examples, other countries not work for Ukraine because we have other specific court system and specific judges system. So it's new task, it's new huge task. So such models, we have some international consultant communities who discuss it, and you need to just remember that in Ukraine don't have such strong and strict understandable system of court like in USA, for example. We have this task for us, like a homework. It's one of the part of our work about some reforms. And it's one of the point of our candidate status for EU task. I mean that we need a reform, and as for me, like create from zero, exactly, a respectable system of justice. That's why we have really great people there, and some deports, but like hold the system, as for me, they are not stable. That's why we're now working that all of this work with international crimes help us rebuild exactly system of justice inside the Ukraine. So we're trying to use it even in this situation to have, after this main idea, you know, after war, have a healthy society which can not only dreaming about democracy and fighting for democracy, but can live in democracy. It's really hard task and huge challenge for country who 300 years fighting for their independence, and we have really unpleasant like neighbors everywhere. It's not only Russia and Belarus and near of us, Turkey with their problems with democracy, like Hungary with their problems with democracy, and Poland, who totally support us but have their own challenges with democracy and the use like legislation. So we exactly want to be example for ourselves, you know, in our region. So, and that's why now we really concentrate to training our judges, prosecutors, and lawyers, that they have a possibility to work after this with all of these thousands of cases. So, as you know, like human rights defenders who have a long experience of documenting for crimes, we're working with our police and prosecutors to give them our experience, that they can use it to work with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. You doing enormous work, and again, exactly as you told and Mara stressed, I understand so deeply how hard this is on you. It's always working in multiple conflict zones, seeing these crimes, documenting these crimes, it's always affect you. So we strongly send you all our best wishes, all our big hearts, and we really want to support you as much as possible. We will be in touch with you because I really would love to work with you on helping to promote and actually use your documentation, not only for legal issues, but see how we as a research institution can use your database, how to make it available to students and for classes. I would see, from my point of view, I see very good possibility for creating lessons based on your database, which universities across United States and the world can use examples from this to teach human rights, monitoring, addressing violations, and so I really see that we'll work together how to make this database alive and useful for higher education around the world.
Thank you. Thank you for such nice meeting. I'm really interested in your question. Thank you. And we always open for cooperation, collaboration, any ideas. We even still accept for internship by distance internship because we like care about security in our organization. So if some of you will look such place with interesting human rights task in Ukrainian organization, we open for that. You always can.
We definitely
think about that.
We have now the director of undergrad studies here, and Mara Shedikh will ask you, and I believe she will be very interested also to discuss the ways how we can intern our students with you, even like maybe creating your collection of documents and so on online. We can, again, we will be in touch and think how our school can be useful and helpful.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.